name is Sloss. I am not the presenter scheduled today, so if you want to leave, you can. If you were looking forward to introvert marketing, is that what it's called? If you're an introvert, this is going to be an activity, so I want you to participate in this. I'm totally 100% winging this because you all spent time to come to this important conference. Well, it's an unconference. I want to provide and share some of my own particular ideas, and I hope they're interesting and entertaining. Again, I'm riffing, I'm winging it. If you leave, I won't be offended. Cool? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
So my name is Sloss. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me and some of my projects. I'm going to talk to you about that moment. My name is Sloss, but I'm also an artist. I work under the Nom de Plume Isa Ana. I also, I started off as a journalist, and then I moved into the public relations field, and I'll give you a little bit more of part of my background in a moment here. But what we're going to talk about today is about collaboration, community hacking, and storytelling in digital media. I'm also an artist, a cultural curator, a writer, and a professor at the University of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. But one thing I want to talk to you about, most of my work is built around culture jamming. So it's really about social movements that disrupt behavior in communities and especially mainstream consumer institutions to change behavior and foster progressive change. I'm going to tell you a little bit of some of my projects, and it'll all kind of come together at the very end. One project I did in Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh is, they call it the Steel Town. So there's this area called the Mon Valley where all of these steel town communities left. All the steel left, and all these communities became disenfranchised. And I was commissioned to do a sculpture in one of the steel towns in Homestead, where I was commissioned to retell my story in a unique way. I didn't know where I was from. My grandmother was not with my grandfather anymore. He was abusive. I did this architectural project and this research project where I would go find my family history. And I did this research initiative, and I found that I am Scotch Irish. You can tell by my freckles and my red beard. You don't have to do a genealogical research. But what I did was I found in one of the small towns called Braddock, Pennsylvania, an Irish Catholic church where my family built an Irish Catholic church. That church was torn down, and all those stones were distributed throughout Pennsylvania. I found all the contractors and negotiated a deal with them. Sometimes I would work on their facilities, sometimes I would do maintenance work for all the stones from this church. I collected all those stones, and I built a monument. And this is the Homestead Library. Andrew Carnegie, he was the steel baron of the time. He was from Pittsburgh. He built 2,500 libraries spread across the U.S. He called them palaces for the people. And this was his second library. Of course, he has a big legacy in New York City, and there's libraries all over. So for me, it was really intimidating to have a particular sculpture that would be placed by the library. It was important for me to relive my history and hack my history in a really interesting way to create my own monument, because I didn't have that familiar past. So I, with a group of artists, created a dedication ceremony. We created a plaque. We called this a historic landmark. And the whole architecture community in Pittsburgh were up in arms. They were so mad. How dare you create a relic without the proper preservation authority? So I took that a step further. Once we found out that this was so controversial in the community, we wanted to create new landmarks. So in the Steel Valley, we researched and we found 75% of the monuments were dedicated to the Steel Valley. Makes sense. This is where all the steel was built, right? We wanted to set out to create a new monument for the future of this community. So we asked a lot of important questions. How could a community be so dedicated to an industry that's no longer there, right? Like, what are the consequences? So we set out to create an opportunity for people to deliver their own monuments, and we did. We had 450 people all over the world submit new landmarks, and this school nurse was dedicated. She got the most votes, so we created this ceremony for her and a dedication opportunity for a Presbyterian church that she lived in. So, but we acted in character, so we hacked the media as well. We wanted to perform and present as a legitimate organization to kind of begin to hack into the community and have this dialogue about what's important to them. So this is, you can find me, I'm a professor at the University of Pittsburgh. Another project, let's go through a couple of projects and then we'll get to some interesting. Another hack I did was something called second line grading. We wanted to find healthcare. We're giving healthcare to kids in the community. And one very important thing about Pittsburgh is that it's stationed between Chicago and New York. And throughout the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, it was where all the jazz people go from Chicago to New York. They were stationed in Pittsburgh. So it's a huge jazz community. It was kind of dying. So we set up and we identified local communities that were hardest hit with cold and flu, the lowest percentage of healthcare. And what we decided to do is recreate second line parading like in New Orleans. Second line parading is a tradition in New Orleans. It's usually around funerals, where they'll walk people through the parade, through the streets. I'm sure you've seen images of like this. We did the same. We commissioned a brass band to walk through the city streets of Pittsburgh and play with social workers. So when they were walking through the community, people were coming out of the doors, looking around and saying, "Whoa, what's going on?" They would join the parade. We'd have hundreds of people just walking through the streets. And as they were coming out and their parents were coming out, all the social workers would say, "Hey, you guys have health care. What can we do to keep you healthy?" So this is one way we hack the community. And the last one one of the last ones I'm going to present to you is one called Bus Pittsburgh. So everybody knows what a busker is. You have them here in Toronto, people playing.
Yeah.
It's a centuries-old tradition. It's always prostitution. It's all over the world in every major city, but in Pittsburgh it's not. What I was really interested in is public and private space. How can we activate people to keep an eye on their city streets and to be kind of passive surveillance as some urban planners think about it. So we created these stages all over the city of Pittsburgh, and we have hundreds of musicians and performers who go to these stages and play music on a regular basis. But what's interesting about this project is not only have we been able to have this passive surveillance in the locations of the cities themselves, crime has been reduced, business has increased in some small town communities. So we've been able to hack these small little main streets through music and performance. What's really interesting is that all these musicians and performers have now created a culture within themselves. Kind of a new power, which I will explain in a moment. Having this network community group of musicians who want to change the community. What's really cool about this, they're working with the local police now to talk about any particular crime or any particular incidents that might be happening in their neighborhood, documenting it for the police, sometimes notifying them if they see violent action. I'm really interested in movements, and if you haven't been able to read the book, Willpower, I highly recommend it if you're interested in digital marketing podcast. It's a book by Henry Timms. Henry Timms is the author of, is actually the executive director of the Y62 in New York City, but he created a book called Willpower. What he argues is that there's two real strong power struggles that are happening in the world today. There's the new power that are current, it's made by many, it's the Me Too movement, it's the Black Lives Matter movement, it's even ISIS, which is, this big social network. And then there's the old power, right? My friend Donald Trump, Harvey Weinstein, and I did this presentation as a keynote in Brazil. This is the mayor of Porto Alegre. So, but what Henry argues is that this old power is authoritative. They control it. They're bullies, right? They grab information. Information is power to them. As long as they own that particular that content, then they're going to win the game. But what we're experiencing now is a completely different new power. And this one in particular is really interesting in terms of the relationship of ISIS and the way old power struggles work. This young woman was in Scotland. She was recruited by ISIS. She's considered the mother of ISIS. She recruits people in a very sophisticated way to join. She gives tips on what you should take over to the Middle East, what kind of makeup you should wear, what kind of clothing you should do. She created the most sophisticated system in terms of recruiting ISIS. And a way that the United States would combat this particular recruitment effort was this. Sorry, this is pixelated, but it says, think again, turn away. The United States symbol, right? This is an old power method, right? It has this emblem of the United States. It has this call to action that says, think again, turn away. But this young woman from Scotland now is in Syria, is sophisticatedly connecting people in real time on how to become a part of the ISIS movement. This is an example of new power versus old power. Sorry, this switched into a PowerPoint. This was on a keynote, so some things are not working here in the presentation, so I'm continuing to riff. One thing I really am interested in is the conceptual argument. I'm very interested in the power of process, right? If you went to the Social Media 101 program, she talked about the editorial calendar, right? What can you do to prepare? What can you do to research? What can you do to think about your measurements and metrics? The conceptual art movement illustrates this in a very beautiful way. What the conceptual art movement tells us, Portuguese, sorry, is that everything before the art is more important than the art itself, or it's just as important. It's the conceptual, it's the basis of conceptual art movement. And these are the two heroes of the conceptual art movement, Solowit and Bell. Solowit created these very sophisticated mathematical equations. In fact, never pick up a paintbrush. He would deliver these mathematical equations on painting, and people, hundreds of people would install them. Bell does the same. He builds these large systems of artwork where it's really about the process of the art. And in fact, if you ever go to see a Solowit painting or a Mel painting, or his work itself, you'll always see the sketch and schematics of his work, because the argument itself is just, the argument process itself is just as important. For example, this is what you might see near his painting. So a square each side, which is equal to the 10th of the total length. This is itself the mathematical equation. This process itself is beauty. This is some of his work. This right here is in Roma. This is on a campus in Pittsburgh. This is called the Kraus Campo. So if you think about the Campo in Italy, everybody can kind of meander around it, and no number touches the same way in this particular sculpture. So this is the conceptual art movement, and I'm inspired by it because if you believe in the philosophy of conceptual art, you also believe there is a beauty process. So if in fact you embrace conceptual art, the process is art, art is beauty, then process is beauty. So in terms of how you think about your content and creating it, you are all creators, you all build things in digital media, digital marketing. Think about the process and how it can support the beauty of that particular system. One thing I want to talk about too is collaboration. I believe collaboration is a theater. So just much like in a play, if you have a particular team that you're working with, collaboration is you're the playwright, right? You're writing down all the instructions of writing the scripts. But collaboration is a really interesting way to think about it, theory. But there are some challenges of collaboration. One, ideas are currency. Your ideas are worth something, and the value you put on them. So when you're in a particular team, you have to think about what information you're sharing as a team member, and that it has particular value. And your ideas are currency, so it breaks down into your time, the person buying your ideas, how many ideas you have, and how much you want them to work. So you think about, even if you're an individual social media planner, your ideas have particular currency. It's all built in your time and the person buying them. And then there are also power dynamics compared to collaboration. Who's the boss? Who's sharing these ideas? Who owns these ideas? That's really critical in terms of the power dynamics of co-creation. And then the dilution of original ideas. So when you're collaborating as a team, many voices can temper a really radical idea. So you have to think about who owns what in terms of that collaborative process. There are many opportunities. Define who makes the last decision. Collaboration is not a consensus. Collaboration is not a style. Many people think that collaboration is a leadership style. On the contrary, clarity about where the buck stops is the most important. Find those outside of your discipline to help. So if you're working within a team, what other skill sets that you can put in? If you're working in social media, maybe bring in the advertising director. If you're maybe bring in a graphic designer. Think about those who can work outside your discipline to help complete your idea. I always like this, if someone says no, ask someone else. If someone's very interested in a particular idea and someone says no, this idea won't work, ask someone else to see if it will actually come to fruition. So we're going to collaborate, okay? We need 6 volunteers. So thank you. All right, you guys are awesome. Come on up. We're improvising here, guys. I need 6 volunteers. We're going to collaborate. I need 4 more. My man, all right, thanks. You guys have a phone by any chance? Can you bring your phone up? Go. Everybody has a phone. I need one more. We need one more.
Come on, somebody.
Come on, somebody.
Have fun with it. Come on, get up here. We need more girls. Good. All right,
bring your phone.
All right,
Sweet. We're gonna collaborate. We're gonna co-create together in something called photo roulette. So what we're gonna do is I want everybody to go to your Photos app. This could be a little tricky in terms of what you're taking photos of.
Yes.
But be brave. No inappropriate photos, please. Okay? What I want you to do is click 5 times. What we're going to do is a photo roulette. We're going to tell a story through collaboration. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to spin our photos 5 times and hit the photo. Okay? And what you have to do is talk about it. Hit the photo, okay? Show everybody the photo, and you have to tell a story about that photo. Okay? I'll start. Glenn, it'll go to you, and then you have to build off of my story. Okay? Remember, this is the power of collaboration, so we're going to have to see here no ideas of that. So, all right, let's give this a try. Ready? I'll do it 5 times, right? Okay.
there a J? I think he hit 4. Oh, damn.
Okay. Here's my photo.
Okay.
Yeah. This is my photo. So now you're going to have to build off of this story.
Okay.
Okay? And then you're going to have to continue the story, and then we're just going to have to go. Okay?
So if I have to take you?
Yeah, wait.
Yes,
Let me tell you.
okay.
There once was a girl who liked rock and roll. She played in a band and gave devil horns. You're up 5 times. Oh, that's good. Yep, again. Yep. Cool. That's my picture to build off of my story.
Very unimpressed looking.
Makes it tougher, right?
This man went to your friend's concert, saw the devil horns, wasn't very impressed.
5 times, build off it, please.
Oh, geez. Whatever lands business card. Cheating way, so I landed on
Business cards.
business cards, people's business cards.
Godspeed.
So this gentleman wasn't impressed, so he moved on and started networking with other people in the crowd and accumulated 3 business cards. So who did he meet?
This is the photo. So in the process of meeting all these boring people, this guy came across this absolutely incredible mother on the side of the street. This mother was having a private moment with her daughter, and that is where he came to find the true essence of what beauty is.
So you found the truth beauty 5 times, right?
Sure.
Okay. Very nice.
Okay, so it was the mother and a son, right?
Sure.
Mother and daughter, okay. So the mother and daughter, or mother and daughter, they were inspired by beauty, and they wanted to explore the world and look at other areas of beauty, other countries of beauty, and they decided to go to Ghana, Accra, and they went to one of the memorials in Ghana, and it's when Ghana actually got their first independence, which was in 1957. So yeah, that's where they ended up.
So they ended up in Ghana and discovered this local arts market. And they found their tribe. They found what they're really passionate about. And together they started to make art and put things together and build an artist community in Ghana.
Awesome job. Yeah, you can go. That's the power of collaboration. Thanks, guys, so much. So that's the power of collaboration. I think that's what's important. What I'd like to say to my team, my artist team, as well as my staff, I'm always very interested in just doing the work, right? Even though I like the beauty of process, I want people just to work and get things done. And the power of creation is always really powerful. It's really interesting to me. So Lewin, who I praised earlier, who is one of the fathers of conceptual art, wrote a beautiful letter to a painter named Eva Hess. And Eva Hess. And she was kind of stuck. She was collaborating with people, and she really didn't know what to do. And I want to share with you this letter that was performed by an actor. There's no audio. Is this up?
April 14th, 1965, dear Eva. It will be almost a month since you wrote to me and you have possibly forgotten your state of mind. I doubt it, though. You seem the same as always, and being you, hate every minute of it. Don't! Learn to say fuck you to the world once in a while. You have every right to. Just stop thinking, worrying, looking over your shoulder, wondering, doubting, fearing, hurting, hoping for some easy way out, struggling, grasping, confusing, itching, scratching, mumbling, bumbling, grumbling, humbling, stumbling, numbling, rambling, gambling, tumbling, scumbling, scrambling, hitching, hatching, bitching, moaning, groaning, honing, boning, horse-shitting, hair-splitting, nitpicking, piss-trickling, nose-sticking, ass-gouging, eyeball-poking, finger-pointing, alleyway-sneaking, long-waiting, small-stepping, evil-eyeing, back-scratching, searching, perching, besmirching, grinding, grinding away at yourselves. Just stop it and just do!
Do you understand?
That's all I got for you guys. I winged it.
Yeah.